Okay, we will try this again. Sorry if you were here before and you are back, hopefully. We did have some technical difficulties, so make sure you tell me if you were here or if you were not here. Hi to Julia. So we'll try this again. If it doesn't work this time, it wasn't meant to be. I'm sorry about that. I did try to change my configuration a little bit. So again, need to do the intro. So my name is Billy Hoekman. I am the Vice President of Nutrition and Communication for Green Juju. We are a whole food pet supplement company that offers whole food nutrition in the form of green blends and a golden blend and treats, um, organ-based treats with healthy plant antioxidants, novel bone broths for all those wonderful bone broth nutrients, um, and and we have a lot of brand new stuff coming out that we'll talk about in a second. Okay, it looks like um, we do actually have people are back. Awesome. So thank you guys for coming back as well. And it looks like some people are streaming in. Awesome. So again, at Green Juju, we do these lives because we like to provide transparency to everyone who uses our products, and we want you guys to know that me and Kelly, the people who are coming up with the products and making the products, are here to provide you with the best thing. So that's why I'm here to answer your questions, to talk about nutrition or whatever you guys want to talk about, to be able to do that. And that's why we do the live events in person. That's why we do these events, to be able to do that. And I am, again, psyched to be able to be a part of Green Juju, because we, I think, are doing some incredible things. So hi to everyone who says hi again. Thank you for coming back, and for the nice haircut comment. I appreciate that. I was searching for someone to cut my hair in a new city, which is not always the easiest thing, and I'm trying to find time away from taking care of the baby. Hi to Quincy down there in Indiana, the person who I'm jealous of your skateboard skills. Kathy says, did you say that Green Juju with Nettles comes in two sizes? Yes, I believe it's 1.75 and 3 ounces. So the larger size is the equivalent to three 15-ounce containers when rehydrated, and the smaller size is the equivalent to one. So, and actually, price-wise, that's a great product for traveling. It's a great product for those who don't want to go into the freezer, things like that. Um, as far as price-wise goes, it actually lines up pretty closely. So, you're not paying a lot more for freeze-dried, which is normally the case. And another thing to point out about that product too is just the quality of it. So we actually make just greens the way that we normally make our blends, which is to juice them, add the pulp back to further break them down, but keep them in a raw food state. And then we actually add the nettles, etc. And then we actually go ahead and freeze dry them. So we're not ordering powders or anything like that. We actually see the whole vegetables, process them the same way, and are able to do that. So you're getting all of those wonderful health benefits. And that, again, is a great way for people who don't want to go to the freezer, or are traveling, to be able to get some very healthy plant antioxidants, and especially with those nettles, to get the antihistamine effect of that. To be able to do that, Kelly used to make nettle blends when she used to do seasonal blends when Green Juju was a smaller company, and people really had great results with that, and to this day still ask about that. So I know she was very excited to put that into the mix, and so that was pretty awesome. So check those out, guys. Hi to Gretchen and Jerry and Border Collie Jr. There is Billy Bauer again, who seems pretty psyched that we're not having technical issues. Beth says, any chance you'll be able to bring some samples of the new Golden Blend to Dogs by Design next week? I don't have any samples, but I think they might. They're shipping out now. If you looked at our post today, they're actually shipping out to the distributors, so they might be able to be there next week. But I don't have any on me because being that I live in Pennsylvania, I'm going to order them from the same um, distributor that your store is. So that's when I will get them as well. However, I probably won't be ordering them until I have a dog again. So, which we have a date for. So it is, let me look here. It's very exciting. It is November 11th is the date that Huckleberry is coming home to us. So we're very excited here. That's going to be Maple's dog. So, so that's when I'll probably, I'm putting together my checklist. I haven't had a puppy in a very long time, so I'm putting together my checklist of all the things that I need for her. For him, that's going to be another thing to get used to as well. He is a boy dog. Hi, Terry from Australia. Thank you for joining me. I have no idea what time it is there, but kudos to you. So yeah, that's probably when I obviously was there for the development of that product, but that's the first time that I'll probably use it with my own dog. So that's very exciting to be able to do that. Thanks for the kind words there, Billy Bauer. Border Collie Jr. says, hey, Billy, the beef bites are small. My dog just swallows them. Any chance Green Juju going to make something a little bit bigger? Probably not. Although that's a good suggestion, and that's something we can keep in mind. But, I mean, most dogs aren't, like, chewing treats anyway. So, and I think the smaller size is more amenable to training and that kind of thing, so we'll probably stay in that realm. But thank you for saying that. Anytime you guys want to suggest stuff, always willing to do that. Billy says, are you in Pennsylvania? I am in Pennsylvania. I'm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in my new home, and it looks like we're having issues, but we'll just see what happens. Carol says, in time, I hope you all make the beet blend again. That's a good suggestion. So Lori says, recently I had someone tell me that green juju may be too strong or too much for my IBD poodle to start on. They thought to start to heal the gut first. Do you have any thoughts on this? Seems like it sure would be helpful to add at lower amounts initially and get started right away. I don't know what they mean by it's too strong or too much. This is kind of like when people say things are too rich. I don't really know what that means from a science standpoint because it's not really like a scientific word. So, no, I think it would be great in the repertoire for an animal that has IBD. One of the things that really strengthens the microflora of people and dogs and other mammals is the amount of it's kind of hilarious because some people are saying that it's freezing and other people aren't. So we're just going to keep going, apparently, and I apologize if that is the case for you. But we will have it available on YouTube later, and usually the video when it's recorded from the computer does not skip. So check this out on YouTube. And by the way, go and follow our YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and type in Green Juju, we have interviews there. We have live videos. We have the new product videos that went out, and we also have training videos for all of you retail stores. So they're short, nice training videos for all of you retail stores, and anyone watching could learn some stuff about our products as well. And we go over each product. So do me a favor, go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel, and you will not be sorry. So going back to the IBD thing, adding probiotics, adding fermented foods, and adding green juju, either the Bailey's blend, any of our whole blends, you're going to get a better diversity of those types of fiber in plants to help feed those bacteria, and you're also going to get obviously all of the nutrition with that as well. So I think it'd be fine, Lori, to do that. Carol says, very sweet, go maple and huckleberry. I agree. I like all the comments about huckleberry. So we got to get Emily 100% sold on huckleberry. We still miss Lua. So hi to Alexa in Las Vegas. Um, I don't want to get your name wrong. Marel. Thanks for all you and Kelly do. Do you have an ETA for being able to order the new products online? Yeah, it should be soon. I think we're working on the website right now to get the new products up and going on there. So, Julie Jacobs says, I missed it. Huckleberry? Yes, Huckleberry is our new dog who's coming home on November 11th. He is a French Bulldog puppy, and he is adorable. Check out my Instagram if you'd like to see a picture of him. Billy says, that's cool to track the pup from the beginning. Yeah, that's kind of the point, actually. I wanted to be able to, I'm always thinking, in science terms. And the Huckleberry, his mother is a raw fed dog, and they're doing everything as naturally as possible, and so he's being obviously weaned onto raw food, and is on raw food now, and some things that I gave him as well. So I think it's going to be a really interesting experiment, but he's going to be a really awesome addition to the family. Looks like Terry in Australia. We're sorry that you can't buy our products, but it looks like you're doing great there as well. Billy says, I'm in Jersey till the 2nd. Maybe meet up for coffee. Yeah, that would be cool. Let me know. Like I said, you're always somewhere, and I never know where it is. So, So Candace says, any plans to create more boneless, low phosphorus versions of the treats? Would be awesome for my older kidney cat. Well, as the only one that has bones in it, so if you use the beef, that doesn't have bones with it. If you use the bison, that doesn't have bones in it. So there are definitely options, and that's definitely a good suggestion. I think we do have the 5 treats available. But even if you switch between those two, I think you'll be pretty good. But thank you for the suggestion. We appreciate it. Jerry says, how did you... Oh, you're replying to someone else. Lisa says, we watch a Frenchie. She snores horrible. Does it come with earplugs? Congratulations. Thank you. So again, if you're having issues, I apologize. It looks like some people can see me and others can't. So I apologize for that, Diane, who is apparently a milestone follower. I don't know what that means, but it probably means that you really like us. So we appreciate you, Diane and Lisa. Christina says, what probiotics do you recommend? When it comes to probiotics, I really like, there's definitely some species appropriate, probiotic blends, which I think are interesting. Pulling, bacteria that typically make up dog's gut, and kind of doing that as well. But, for me, it comes down to not just what probiotic do I recommend. It comes down to all of the getting probiotics from a bunch of different food sources, even if you're using a probiotic supplement. A good example of that is I use a probiotic supplement, but I also get probiotics from a ton of different foods and fermented foods and that kind of stuff as well. So I would highly recommend that. So if you're going to use a probiotic, I would still recommend things like fermented foods. I would still recommend, other sources of probiotics, because you want to inoculate your dog's gut with as many as you possibly can. So you could do that as well. But as far as, it's like anything else. You just have to do your diligent research if you're going the supplemental route in regard to that. I know for my own dog, I plan on obviously, feeding a lot of foods that are very rich in probiotics, but I also, for instance, just randomly throw my own probiotic in. occasionally, because why not just try to inoculate with a different type of bacteria to get sort of, a lot of different versions and let them compete and let them, that's kind of how nature works. But especially if you're on like a processed food and you're just not feeding your dog, foods that contain a bunch of probiotics, I would recommend using one if that's the case. But, again, going back to green juju with some of those innate probiotics, but also the probiotics but also feeding those probiotics and having that diversity of different types of plants. And green juju takes the work out of all that. So if you know, you're getting, 8, 9 different plant types in there. And so that will help the diversity and that'll help feed the microbiome. So I think that's a very positive thing. Carol said, sorry, when can we expect the new products in stores in upstate New York? I would think they're shipping from us now. So like next week, I would think. So go check that out. Ask your stores. They should have it available to them. Candace says, would love a boneless version of the duck treat recently released. Well, we will take that under consideration for sure. I'm happy at least you can do some of the other ones, but definitely take that under consideration. I've been reading The Forever Dog, and I'm trying to incorporate more of the core longevity toppers to my girls' raw food and green juju. You use so many already. Awesome. How do you recommend knowing when we're feeding too much of those extra helpful foods, broccoli, etc.? I don't think it's really hard to overdo. So the great thing about plants is, so a good example of that is our blends are like between 9 and 15 calories an ounce. So they're very low in calories. So no animal is going to become like overweight is the first thing from feeding, too much of our blends. They're also very low in carbs. Our green blends are 3% net carbs, and our golden blend is about 6%. So they're lower in carbohydrates. But you're right, they're very, very helpful when looking at all of those foods that we know now through newer science, like broccoli and those plant foods that are actually able to help longevity. We know that obviously those are very high. So it's very, very hard to overdo it. What I would recommend with what you're doing there, so you're feeding a raw food, you're using green juju, I'd recommend rotating between the blends when you're doing that, because that's going to give you a ton of different types of foods. In those 3 products, I would recommend, buying the largest container of our Bailey's blend and using it fresh for 8 days, and then using the rest of it fermented for the next 2 weeks, because then even in one product, you're getting it to, it's kind of like we rotate between products because it's healthier and you get different nutrients. The Bailey's blend rotates itself because you get a fresh product and a fermented product. So I'd highly recommend doing that. Start with the recommended dosage, and then, you're doing really great. I know we're always looking for more things to add, and how do I do this? So I would recommend incorporating also some of the other things in that book, like the feeding schedules, the exercise, and that kind of stuff. The other thing you could do as well, if you're already feeding a great raw food, you're already doing, our green juju blends, is definitely incorporate bone broth. We have a duck bone broth and a bison bone broth, which again gives you not only that collagen, which is the most abundant protein in the body, but it also adds, it's a high moisture environment for all of those wonderful minerals and protein, and is just very absorbable. So I would highly recommend doing that as well. And then the last thing you can do too is share healthy foods with your dog. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of that. When I had Lua, she would get, healthy bits of my food when we're making food and that kind of stuff all the time, because that fills in nutritional gaps as well. I think if you're doing that, you've already won the prize for best dog owner, in my opinion. So best pet parent award, I don't want to mess up your name, goes to Morel. But I think, we can all take something from that, and we can all, learn from that. And so that's what I would do. So the next question is kind of like that as well. Is it best to rotate blends? It is absolutely best to rotate blends, especially, if you're rotating between the green blends and you've been doing that for a while. Getting into our new golden blend, I think is going to be really incredible. Especially, you get a whole new set of foods and a different antioxidant profile. One of the things we do that I think is really cool is we focus on these different colors for different antioxidant types. And, now you're getting a whole new color type to be able to do that. So, going back to, your forever dogs or whatever, I think that's a great way to do that. And it's a good time to tell you, speaking of colors, that, we have a lot of, I obviously can't say anything about it, but we have a lot of really cool stuff coming up in the next year, in my opinion. We're working on some stuff right now. I think it's just going to be a really exciting time to for not only us, because my favorite part about this job is developing these products and seeing all of the health outcomes that you guys tell me about. It's just, that's what makes doing this worth doing. But we're going to come out with, I think, some really cool products and some really different stuff. So I hope you guys get excited about that because we're always kind of like churning our brains when it comes to new stuff. I know that that's something Kelly really loves as well, which is one of the reasons probably why we work together so well. So look forward to that. I wish I could tell you more, but I can't. So Kristen says, hi. How long do you use cocoa past the date given? Does it get better with time like other things? I would probably stick to the date. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a raw coconut yogurt that you can find at like health food grocery stores. I've definitely been a proponent of it in the past. This is another thing that you can do. These are small things that you can do for a healthy gut, more nutrition, a better fed dog, just generally different types of bacteria. Another thing I did, for instance, when recommending something like that, if I'm at Whole Foods, I just go and pick one up and use it for a while and then won't use it for a while and then I'll reintroduce it. What I love about that product is it literally like rises out of the jar sometimes because it's very fermented. When you smell it, you can smell it's very fermented. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck in the probiotics. I believe it's around 12 billion per tablespoon. I think. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. Beth Kidd says, is it possible to give your dog too many probiotics? Not in my opinion. I think that dogs, if they have too many probiotics, are dogs that are typically kibble fed and then go on to like a probiotic supplement. And all of a sudden their gut's like, whoa, what is this? I'm not used to this sort of, influx of all this good bacteria. And you might see like diarrhea or something like that. But the more you get your dog onto a natural diet or your cat, and the more they're dealing with different types of foods and raw foods and foods that have probiotics, you can't really overdo it, especially if most of those probiotics are coming from food themselves. So it's really hard to overdo that. But that would be, going back to the diet itself. And that just goes back to food in general. Like a good example of that would be, most dogs are vitamin D deficient. But people are scared when they're home formulating and that kind of thing because they don't want to do too much vitamin D because it's fat soluble, so it stores in the body, and there's a potential for toxicity there. But in nature it's different because you have vitamin A, D, and K2, and all these things interact with each other, and so the ceiling for toxicity becomes much, much higher, as in you're not really going to get a toxicity there. So nature has a great way of working in that way that, if these things come from nature and it's what these animals, evolved eating and the different nutrients and those types of things, you're much less likely, in my opinion, to be dealing with, too much of anything. And that's kind of, how I go back to my own formulating for my own dog is how do I introduce as many nutrient-dense foods as possible? And, all of our green Juju products, whether you want to do more organ meats or you're doing the treats, whether you want to do more of those greens, I would highly recommend everyone who's watching this, if your animal's on a raw diet, to use our blends of vegetables for the antioxidants, for the extra fiber, for the plant diversity, and on top of whatever you're doing. And start with the recommended dose, and you can adjust accordingly if you need to, but start with the recommended dose. Because again, they're low in carbs, they're low in calories, and they're very high in all the things that we're focusing on right now, which is avoiding disease conditions. So Carol says, great, I just picked up some bison bone broth still in the freezer, but when I thaw, can I heat it? I wouldn't, I mean, you can. Yeah, I guess you can. When I drink bone broth, I heat it. So you could definitely do it. You don't have to, but just know that when you do heat, so it'll be jelly, so you'll see the collagen there. When you heat it, it'll be less jelly, but that doesn't mean the collagen's gone. It just changes in its chemical state. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I guess you could. Melissa says, I alternate feeding my dogs green Juju blends with raw sauerkraut. Should I be concerned about the sodium levels in raw sauerkraut? No, typically not. It just depends, but on what kind of brine they're using and what type of salt they're using. If they're using sea salt, no, not really. And if the brine is like 2% or less, you're totally fine. Because remember, salt, is a sodium. The minerals found in salt are necessary nutrients. So especially if you're just using a little bit, that's really cool that you're doing that and incorporating. Imagine your dog is getting this amazing diet, and on top of that, they get these blends full of all these amazing fresh food and these fermented raw vegetables. Your dog is very lucky to have you, and I wouldn't worry too much about that unless you're doing a ton of it. I mean, there could be a potential issue, but I don't think so as long as it's a good sea salt they're using. Courtney says, any recommendations on healthy fats to feed dogs? Well, the one plant fat that I recommend is the one that we have in green Juju, which is coconut oil, and also MCT oil derived from coconuts, also good. Lost my train of thought. Oh, fats. Although I have been known to feed my dog pieces of avocado as well, so I guess that would be a very high in fat product. But aside from the coconut oil and MCT oil, and I know there's some like controversy about lauric acid in coconut oil, but for those that ask that question, I ask you this. So lauric acid is another fatty acid that comes in coconut oil, along with a bunch of medium chain fatty acids like caprylic acid and capric acid, and it's come under fire because there was, I believe, a study that showed something about gut inflammation. But lauric acid is actually highly prevalent in basically every mammal's milk. So be it human milk, dog milk, goat milk, cow milk. And why would evolution put that into milk if it was in a pro-inflammatory food? And why would it be in every milk? So that's what I think, that coconut oil is a very healthy fat to be able to do that. Other than that, you just want to stick to animal fats. So a lot of healthy fats you can feed to dogs, but the healthiest fat you can feed to dogs is inherent fat from meat. So beef, the fat that comes with beef, the fat that comes with chicken. Also healthy fats come from, fish. Also healthy fats come from things like, cod liver oil and fermented cod liver oil and those types of things. But just remember, you want to do raw versions. You want to do the whole food version of those things. So animal fats and coconut oil or MCT oil derived from coconuts. And that's pretty much, what I would recommend in terms of those healthy fats. And I know when I formulate food for my own dog, I like to incorporate those fats naturally. So the other thing, here's another good example of that. If you went back to the Cocoa Yo and we're adding that for fun, that would have those fats as well. So it just really depends. Christina says, why is most bone broth not frozen like yours? It's probably shelf stable because, or it's probably because shelf stable is a product that is easier to sell. That would be my guess. But keep in mind, you want to, when it comes to food, you know, when you can, you want to do the least invasive way of storing things. And freezing is a really non-invasive way. Every way has some type of being invasive, but is a really non-invasive way to do that. So, um, oh, there you go. Uh, Marl. Carl with an M. Marl. Yes, you are welcome. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. I'm sure you get that a lot, and you're like, how does this guy not know my name? What the heck's going on with him? Um, so Catherine says her dog reacts differently between the different blends. Well, I tell you what, Catherine, find what works for your dog, and you can do that. So, if, for instance, every dog is going to be different. This is a good learning lesson. So every dog is going to be different. So, um, for instance, if your dog does better on the Just Greens blend and the Golden blend, and not as much on Bailey's, then doing two is fine, and vice versa, and all different combinations of that. Doing two or three or whatever you can do is totally fine. So, and all of you know your dogs better than anyone, so you know what foods work for them, which foods don't work, um, so it looks like people are excited about the new products. So again, I do want to remind you guys that that our new products are freeze-dried green juju with nettles, our duck bone broth, our duck treats, and our golden blend are all shipping this week. So they're all available very soon. And so we're very excited. So do me a favor, if you start using these products, and it'd be awesome if you took a picture and put it on Facebook or Instagram and tagged us, and so we can see, how your dogs are enjoying them as well. And since we got cut off earlier, I would like to mention my two events, because the other video will not be living anywhere after this. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area, specifically Irwin, Pennsylvania, on October 27th, so next week at 5 p.m., I'll be doing a Q&A at Dogs by Design. So come and say hi. And if you're in Massapequa, on Saturday, November 6th, I'm doing a Q&A at 6 p.m. at the Canine Shop. So come talk nutrition, FDA, AFCO, Green Juju, all those wonderful things. Love seeing people in person, so come and check that out. And I would be happy. Always a big fan of going to Pittsburgh, one of my favorite cities. Have never been to Massapequa, but excited. Met those folks this summer and excited to see them again. Looks like they're doing a lot of really cool stuff with education there. So very excited to be part of that. Marilyn says, I've been making my... Is it necessary to add apple cider vinegar to the water? I've heard so many different opinions. I think it is a better thing to do. Yes. I think adding that acidity is going to bring out more beneficial nutrients. Janet says, what is your dog's name, Billy? My dog's name, who is living on a farm right now, his name is Huckleberry. So we have Maple and Huckleberry, and those are our two children. I'm excited to see them together for the first time. So if you'd like to see a picture of Huckleberry, check out my Instagram. He is on there. So Courtney says, do you find benefits in rotating Green Juju blends, and how often would be ideal in rotating? I do. Very beneficial in rotating between all different types of foods. But for me, it's about making life easy to some degree. I remember thinking to myself before, like, oh, everyone should have time to be able to do everything perfectly for their dog every meal. And then we had a baby, and that changed for me for a long while, and Green Juju became something that was a godsend to me, because one doesn't have time to grow their own sprouts and cut them up at all times and do that sort of thing. So Green Juju, for me, I became that customer, and I probably will be, considering she's only 5 months old. So so I'm all about making life easy. So I would just go through one container. So start with just greens, move to Bailey's blend. Once that container's gone, move to Bailey's blend, then go to the golden blend and just rotate between those. Now you have the 3 different options. You can buy them all and freeze them, and I mean, whatever works for you guys. If you want to do that, great. But for me, I'm all about keeping it easy and doing that. So. Janet says, I feed raw sauerkraut too, but I rinse it in plain water. I wouldn't do that. You could be getting rid of some of that bacteria. Still be beneficial for, the fiber, for those antioxidants, and this is real nutrition nerd stuff, for that vitamin U. Shout out on here if you've ever heard of vitamin U, but still gonna get that with that sauerkraut or cabbage. But I would not do that. Just my opinion. Melissa says, is there any discussion on adding Nettles into the frozen just greens blend? Not as of currently, but thank you for the suggestion. We appreciate that. Julie Jacobs says, refresh my brain. I can freeze all 3 green Juju in little cubes to add to meals. I would like to rotate blends. This would be the easiest with a tiny dog. Yes, you can absolutely do that. Refreezing vegetation is very simple, and it also doesn't really hurt the nutritional aspect of it. So you can definitely do that. If I get a little distracted, I currently have the world's cutest baby staring me down on the other end of this computer. So shout out to Maple Everly. Carol says, will Green Juju be represented at Dr. Kosher's Healthy Pet Expo in the spring? I totally forgot about that, but I feel bad for Dr. Kosher because she's had to schedule that event so many times. But I believe Dr. Kosher did reach out to me, and I think I will be there. So if you're going to the Healthy Pet Expo in Albany, New York in the spring, I don't know what the dates are offhand, but I believe I will be there, so I would be excited. I actually spoke there. I spoke there once. I did a meet and greet once, and then this year we'll actually be there and hanging out. Looking forward to seeing a lot of my friends, meeting new people, all that fun stuff. So come hang out. Marilyn says, thank you. Well, you're welcome. Oh, about the not rinsing the sauerkraut. Yes, that makes sense. Courtney says, I'm so excited for the freeze-dried products to bring camping and traveling with the boys. You just saved me cooler space. Oh, that's awesome. We are excited as well, and we'd love to see pictures of that. But yeah, that's part of the reason we did that. And, I, for one, am excited to get into this world of how do we make convenient foods for people who travel or people who just don't have fridge space or just don't want to go into the fridge for whatever reason, or the freezer. I myself, I'm always up for an awesome challenge, and that was one of the reasons I came on with Green Juju, was how do I affect the bowls of more dogs and cats around the country, because that's ultimately my goal is, better health outcomes for all of your animals. And so that's why, again, such a great fit for me and Kelly, because I know she feels the same way. Tracy says, hi, Maple's dad. I accept that title. That's I will say being Maple's dad is one of obviously the great honors of my life. So thank you for saying that. And hopefully you get to meet her, Tracy. She would love to meet you. Catherine says, will all the blends eventually be fermentable? No, we won't be changing either blend. So keep in mind, I just want to remind everyone the Bailey's blend is the only one that ferments. So you have to be able to add the correct things in order to make it ferment, which is why foods don't just naturally ferment. Like if everything naturally fermented, foods wouldn't go bad necessarily, or wouldn't go bad for a very long time. So we're definitely not going to change the just grains or the golden blend. And remember, Bailey's blend is the only one that ferments. That's because the cabbage is the inoculator of that good bacteria, and then the lemon brings the pH down. So it's the right environment. And Kelly was so brilliant that she developed that product without even knowing it. So all I did was figure out that it ferments, but she's the mastermind behind all that fermentation, and she didn't even know it. I've heard warming food is slightly easier on digestion, though wouldn't want to microwave. What methods do you recommend? If you do, high maple. Thanks again. You know, I just go back and forth because I know a lot of people that I work with and respect always recommend warming food. I know I don't. I just feed food out of the fridge, and I haven't noticed, a huge difference in doing one or the other. But if you want to do that, I would just recommend either leaving it out on the counter for, till it gets up to room temperature, or number two, just kind of, you could put a bowl of warm water underneath it or something like that. But I just wouldn't really recommend, heating it in any traditional sense, like, obviously not in the microwave, but in the oven or anything like that, because I just think it gets away from you too quickly. And remember, we want this to be raw. So that's kind of what I think on that. Christina says, is it okay to feed regular goat milk instead of raw goat milk? I wouldn't recommend pasteurized dairy for dogs and cats. Michelle says, glad to see you at the Southeast Pet Show, and I'm calling you Maple's dad from here on out. Well, thank you. Let me know if you are in the Natural Pet Pantries area. I will do that. And it was great to see you and everyone else at some of those shows. So that was really cool. Looks like Beth uses something suggested by Krista at Pug and Hound. And I will say, if they do see this video, congratulations to Krista and Jeff at Pug and Hound for getting married last weekend. I was there. Me and Emily were there, and it was a wonderful wedding. And it featured Bruce, who is a black pug, who's amazing and is my godson. So you guys are amazing, and your wedding was awesome. So I'm going to... All right. So it looks like we hit 8 p.m. I'm glad we had technical difficulties, but we got through 42 minutes after that. So I just want to say thank you guys, and I do want to let you know that it is our honor and privilege to be able to feed your dogs and cats and to be able to, provide you with this nutrition, and it's what we love to do. And I know that you guys come out and you ask me questions and you're invested in your animals, and so thank you for that. Your animals are all very, very lucky to have you, and we will continue to do what we do at Green Juju, which is to provide, the best possible thing for every pet parent in every situation. And, we're always trying to meet you guys where you are, whether you feed processed food and want to add a little bit more, raw or unprocessed food, whether you're an avid raw feeder, we're going to keep making, amazing products for you. And so thank you guys. Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next month.